welcome to this episode of the Askbonbon Show, real conversations about what matters most, where we bring you the people and the tools to create a life that you love. Hi, I am your host, Bonnie Bruder, and this is my absolute favorite episode because you get to ask Bonbon, the name of our show. And so, as many of you know, I am a life coach and an executive coach, and so I have clients all over the world. And we have an amazing community through our website, and people have been able to write in their coaching questions that they would like answers to over the last couple of months. And so today on this episode, we're going to answer some of those important questions. So hopefully, if you have a similar issue in your life, you can get some value and some coaching and some tools to move forward. So our first question comes from Colleen, and she is in Minnesota, and she writes, I am really wanting to create a legacy. I want to create something that outlasts my life and that I can be proud of both while I'm here and then it can provide for my family after I'm gone. Colleen, this is a really great question that you've written in, and obviously you wanted to know how to do this. And so I always tell people, let's start with the end in mind. So what is it that you want to create? And obviously you're very clear that you want to create something that's a legacy. It's something that after you've left the earth, that will provide for your family and hopefully your family's family. And this is a really great thing to do when you're thinking about a business, because it's not just about, okay, how do I pay rent? How do I pay my bills? But you want to think expansive. You want to think big picture. So what I would recommend to you is I would get crystal clear on what type of business you would like to create, and then look at what it would take to do that. Now, let's look at 1 year because that's a very finite number that you can kind of put your arms around. And then let's look 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and even further into the future and look at what it would take in order to create that business. Many times when people start a business, they just jump right in. They think, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to be excited and passionate and sell. And then all of a sudden, they don't have that end in mind. And so they don't succeed with their business. So my advice to you, Colleen, and thank you so much for posing this important question, is number one, start with the end in mind, and then take it back to a manageable step so that you have 1 year, and then 5 years, 20, and so forth. Thank you so much for watching and for writing in. Our next question comes from Tiffany in California.
Okay, I think it does look better if I chopped it up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just because, even though it's just a side view, it still gives, just because you don't want somebody to just listen to it, you want somebody to have a visual.
Okay.
So if I just chop it up a little bit, it's not mundane, because if you're going to talk the whole time, I want people to actually look at it.
Okay. So you're the FT. What are you? FT.
I'm a lot of things at this point.
You're the very important F something.
So I'm gonna let it be mainly focused here, but I am gonna chop it up just a little bit so it's not the same.
Okay. Will we have enough time still on the disc?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 38 minutes left.
And then, so I'm going to give her some different advice now because I didn't even know what I was talking about.
I love it. All right.
That's what I do all day long. What's your problem?
I'll figure something out.
What you want to do about it? Okay.
Ready when you are.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the Askbonbon Show. I am your host, Bonnie Bruder, and we bring you real conversations about what matters most and introduce you to the people and the tools to create a life that you love. Today, I am so excited. This is my favorite episode because you, the viewers, get to ask Bonbon. Yay! So as many of you know, I am a life coach and an executive coach, and I work with clients all over the world. And we have a web community and social media, and many of you have written in questions over the last couple weeks. And today we are going to answer them for you and give you some tools and strategies, as I said, to go out and create the life that you love. So if you're watching and you didn't get a chance to write in a question, hopefully you will get some value. Maybe you're having a similar issue in your life, or you know somebody that's having a similar issue. So I encourage you to take some notes and listen to the advice here that I would give my clients if you were paying me a lot of money to coach you. And hopefully it can help you create a better life for you. All right, our first question comes from Colleen. And she writes to us from Minnesota, and she says, how do I create a business that will become a legacy so that after I leave this earth, it will provide for my family? Colleen, this is such a great question. So many times as we get a little bit older and a little bit more mature, we start to think more bigger picture. We start to think not only about the day-to-day and making rent, but how do you create a legacy? How do you create something that can outlast you and hopefully provide for your children and your children's children? So the advice that I give to you is some that was given to me by a very powerful mentor, and that is to always start with the end in mind. So Colleen, first figure out exactly what type of business you want to create. What does it look like? What type of revenues? What type of impact do you want to make on the world? What type of contribution? And then once you have that vision and you have that identified, peel it back and let's start with something manageable. I call this chunking down. That's a technique I learned when I worked with Tony Robbins, and he would talk about chunking different pieces of information. So have the big vision, have the end in mind, but then let's chunk it down to something manageable. So looking just 1 year out, what needs to happen in order for you to move towards that bigger vision? And then once you've identified all of that in those steps, then look at 5 years out and 10 years out and so forth. So that is really how you create your legacy. You start with the end in mind, but then you pare it back, you chunk it down so that you have manageable pieces that you can execute on that are going to help you constantly move towards that goal. Thank you so much for writing in, Colleen, and we wish you the best of luck on your legacy project. Our next question comes from Yvette, and she writes to us from New York. Yvette has a t-shirt company, and she wants to know, if you have a product, how do you get your product or service out into the mainstream? Yvette, this is such a great question. Thank you so much for writing in. I know so many of our viewers have businesses or they have ideas, and it's really important that you define who your proper target market is. And so everything that I've learned through my own mistakes and my own successes in business, as well as coaching over 7,000 people all over the world, have taught me that you always want to have the right message and market match. So what do I mean by that? You could have this perfect idea, you could have these wonderful t-shirts that you think are just fabulous, and you know there's a market out there. But if you don't have the right message and you don't have something that's aligned with the person that's going to be looking for your product, then you won't be able to make that sale. On the flip side of the coin, once you align that message, once you have the message to market match and you find the right vehicle, then you can really create a successful business. So these days, there's so many great sites out there. Obviously, we all know about Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn that you can network and promote your business and make great contacts. But also there's sites like Etsy. There's other places where you can create a storefront that already have an audience. They have the people that are looking for your product or your service and what you're offering. And then again, if you have the right message, you're going to match that to the customer and you're going to make a lot of sales. So thank you so much for writing in. I appreciate your question, and I wish you the best of luck with your business. Our next question comes from Tiffany, and she writes to us from California, and she wants to know, if you're a single parent, how do you achieve work-life balance? She writes, it seems like every single day I'm just striving to keep up, to pay the bills, and to get my children where they need to go. This is such a great question. So many times when I work with individual coaching clients, they have so many different roles and responsibilities. You might be a mom, you might be an entrepreneur, you might be a business owner, a wife, a dog mom. I mean, there's so many different roles and responsibilities and things that are required of you in a day. And a lot of times, especially as women, we hear this, but it happens with men too, you just give and give and give until you feel tapped out and you don't really feel like you have balance in your life. You don't really feel like you have any space or any time for your dreams. So it's really critical and really important that you schedule time for this. You have to create a container in order to allow balance to come into your life. And I know that sounds a little crazy, probably, if you're running around and you have kids that need to get to soccer and ballet and you've got a dog that needs feeding and. But what I know for sure is when you schedule time and you make it a priority to take care of you first, you truly can transform all of that, and you can transform everyone's life around you. And so a couple of tools that I would like to share with you, again, another tool I learned from Tony Robbins, one of my favorite mentors, is what he calls your hour of power. And he encourages people every single morning to start with an hour that will empower you. Okay, so if an hour seems ridiculous, just do 30 minutes. And if that seems cuckoo talk, then just do 15. But whatever you can do in your own life, make sure that you set time aside to do this. This is very critical and important for your well-being and the well-being of others. And when you do this, you have more to truly give. So what this can look like, I have clients that do many different things. Some people like to wake up in the morning and they like to journal. Other people like to map out their day, plan, what they're going to wear, what they're going to eat, who they're going to have meetings with. Other people will meditate or do some yoga. But whatever it is to you, you want to pick something that fulfills you, that really makes you sing and makes you thrive, so that you can go out into your day and be more productive and be a better mom and be a better employee. And so again, I promise you, by doing this, it will truly transform your balance and transform your life. So thank you so much for writing in with that very important question. Our next question comes from Dennis, and he is writing to us also here in New York. And he wants to know, how do you figure out what is the best career path for you when there's so many things that you love to do? Dennis, this is such a great question, and I, again, get this a lot from my coaching clients, where people may have, a job that pays their bills, but then they have all of these ideas. They have all of these things that they're passionate about that they want to explore, and a lot of times I work with clients that maybe have gone down a lot of those roads. I'll get a resume or a new career coaching client, and I'll look, and there'll be a lot of transition and a lot of jumping around, and yes, that is one way to figure out what your passions are and what you're best suited for. But I also have a lot of tools that I can help share with you to figure that out first. So you've heard the saying, don't quit your day job. Well, there's a lot to that. And I don't believe that people should give up what is providing the lifestyle that will allow them to be creative and passionate just to follow their dreams. I believe in doing whatever it takes, don't get me wrong, but that's a very big difference there. So the first thing, Dennis, that I would have you do, and any viewer that is feeling the same way and having the same curiosity, is to identify what I call your soul sentence. And your soul sentence is really your personal mission statement. It's something that rings true to you at your core. And so I'll share mine with you. I created mine about 20 years ago at a Tony Robbins seminar. Can't believe it's been that long. But I truly embody this, and I use it each and every day. And mine is, the purpose of my life is to have passion, health, and happiness, and to spread love and joy to others. So when I think about all of the different career transitions I've had, relationships I've had, businesses I've started, moves I've made over the last 20 years, when I look back, and if anything aligned perfectly with my soul sentence, it was the right thing to do. And if it didn't, it was always a disaster. And so I'll give you a very specific example. As many of you know, I talk about my history a lot, and I worked for Tony Robbins for many, many years, and I toured around the world. I did production, I did coaching, and then I left and I went to another global training company where I was the head of production. And I thought that this was my ideal job. I mean, I was passionate about it. It was in personal development, which made me happy. I was spreading love and joy to others because we were training and certifying people to make their lives better. We taught them NLP and hypnotherapy and presentation skills. However, I was pretty miserable. My relationships sucked. I was exhausted all the time. I got quite sick, and I couldn't figure out why. And so one day, in complete exhaustion, I was just analyzing the job against my soul sentence, and it hit me. I said, this just isn't healthy. So one word was in violation, because I was working sometimes 20 hours a day, up to 30 days in a row without any days off. It was completely throwing my life off kilter. So thankfully that happened, and I remembered my soul sentence and how important that was, because then I made a different choice, and that's actually when I went out on my own and started coaching and consulting, and now have this show, and I'm able to talk to people like you and help people like you. So I really encourage you first, Dennis, to start with a soul sentence. Create your personal mission statement. I love, one of Starbucks, when you're here, you're family. So you know what you're going to get. If you walk into a Starbucks in Turkey or in Penn Station, New York, or anywhere in between, you know you're going to get 3 choices of sizes. You're going to get brown and green. Someone's going to call you by name when you order your drink. And so you want to have something for you that's representative of that. So whatever choice you make going forward, it will embody your soul sentence. The next thing that I encourage you to do is design a list of your passions. Just get a piece of binder paper is fine, or a notepad, and just start writing down all of the things that you think you might be interested in. And I always encourage people to come from the frame of if you had a magic wand. So don't worry about it. You might think, oh, I would love to be a CNN correspondent. Oh, but I can't because I can't travel. Don't let any of the I can'ts or the I don'ts get in your way. Just think from the point of a magic wand and just start writing freeform all of the things that you might be interested in. Maybe you want to take a yoga class or a meditation class. Maybe you do want to be a photojournalist. Maybe you want to be a philanthropist. We've had many people on this show that have followed their passion, not necessarily out of just, hey, I'm going to follow my passion, but they fell into it in their lives. A couple of episodes ago, you met Lisa Ruoff, who went to Haiti and volunteered after the earthquake. And then just on a simple walk, reflecting on her day out by herself, she decided that she wanted to start a company leading philanthropic trips to places like Haiti that were devastated by national disasters. Fast forward a few years, she now is a global philanthropist with a very successful and thriving business leading tours all over the world. So again, here's someone that I personally worked with and coached. I had her design her soul sentence, and then she found that right match of matching her passions to what she wanted to do, and she was able to monetize it. So by having this list, you know all of the things that you're curious about. And then as you're working your day job, just start ticking through your list one by one. Maybe take one a week, go to a yoga class, maybe you have a wine tasting class on there, a salsa dance, and just start identifying what are the things that you like about it, what else would you like to see? And then from there, you can fact find and you can figure out the traits that are most important to you, as well as the other jobs that you've had, and take the information from that. And then you can identify the perfect career for you and make a choice from that place. It's such a more empowered choice to make than jumping into something and then 6 months later realizing that wasn't the right thing for you. A lot of times people tease me because I do have 10 different certifications, and thankfully I got most of those in a period of time when I was in that place. But what I've learned now going forward is that it's so much more successful and empowering to choose when you know the right path for you. So that's my advice to anyone watching that has questions on how to choose a career or a lifestyle or anything that really suits their passions. All right, we have a couple more questions. Our next question is from Tiffany, and she has a question about nutrition. She says, it can be so challenging having to cook for my children and myself while I'm trying to run a business, trying to run a household, and trying to take care of my own life. Tiffany, this is such a great question, and I am such a huge fanatic about nutrition and making sure that you set yourself up for success. You'll hear me say that a lot. It's a term I learned from my best friend, Amber. And anything that she does, she always says, well, I want to set you up for success. And this is something that you have to make a choice to do in your life. If you are a busy person, which let's face it, we all are these days. There's internet, social media, everything coming at us at all hours of the day. It's hard to have balance, it's hard to have downtime, but you really have to make a commitment to being healthy and making healthy choices. So one of the things that I do with my clients is first we have a talk about what nutrition is to you. So what's important to you? What things do you want to let go of in your life? What things do you want to add into your life? You know, do you need to make a trip to Whole Foods and get some supplements or vitamins? And then once we have your vision of what nutrition looks like, we analyze that against what you're actually doing in your life. So a lot of times people say, oh yeah, I eat healthy. And then we peel back the layers of the onion and we realize not so much. Drinking 12 cups of coffee does not count as hydrating. So we identify what nutrition is to you, and then we create a plan in order for you to be able to achieve it. So I'm all about stretch goals, goals that are just a little bit outside of your reach, but that are achievable. Nobody wants to feel like a failure. So if you have a goal to be a vegan, but you know that you eat burgers 3 to 4 times a week, probably not the best plan for you. But if you say, okay, I know I'm gonna have a burger every now and then, but I'm gonna choose salad instead of fries, and I'm gonna choose to have a more balanced salad and protein meal after that day, then that's a better choice. You know, our life is all about choices, and every choice we make in the moment, I always call them micro choices. Those lead up to the quality of our whole life. So once you've identified the lifestyle and the nutrition plan that you wanna follow, then we have to look at your current life and what is possible. I know living here in New York, it's so amazing because you can have groceries delivered. You can go online. A couple of times I've gone on either weekend trips or vacations, and before I go, I'll set up my groceries to be delivered that night I arrive back home, because I know if I don't, we're looking at 3 to 4 days of seamless 3 times a day, you know? And so you have to make sure, you have to know where those holes are for you and set yourself up for success so that you walk back into your life, you can prepare salads, you can have healthy breakfast. And another thing, this is a tip I learned from a dear friend of mine, Erin Shallett, who's a caterer and specializes in wholesome organic meals. And I would always go over to her house. She was a neighbor in Sausalito. And I would just watch her as she prepared her meals. And she cooked for a lot of very high income families. And she taught me a lot of things. And one of those was about the power of prepping. So I will personally, and I have a lot of my clients do this, schedule 2 to 3 hours a week to prep your meals. Chop up salads. You know, it takes so long to make a salad in the middle of the day. I know I'll just grab for something else if I have 5 minutes between clients because one ran over and the other one's early. But if you have a nice, healthy salad with 8 or 10 ingredients in your refrigerator that you can just grab and go, that's a totally different choice and a totally different result for you. So spending time, you know, cooking soups, cooking casseroles, cooking things that are easy for you to grab, don't cost a lot of money, that are very nutritious, will really set you up to be a more healthy person. So I would really encourage you to do that, especially with children as well. I know sometimes there's finicky eaters, but when you find the things that work, make sure that you're preparing and you have those choices so that you can make it a win for everyone, and everyone has more energy and is healthy and meets their nutritional goals. Thank you so much for your question. All right, we have time for one more question today. So our last question comes from Matthew, and he writes to us from New Jersey, and he wants to know, how do you start a business? If you have an idea and you have a concept that you want to turn into a business, where do you start? Matthew, this is such a great question. So many people come to me and they have these ideas, and some of them are great, and quite honestly, some of them are probably not so great for creating a lifestyle and creating revenue. So the first thing is to look at your idea and see if this is a viable business. And if it is, great, then let's move further. From there, you really want to identify what specifically do you want to create. Is this going to be a little side thing that you do on evenings and weekends that pays for your vacation, or is this going to replace your day job? Whatever decision you make needs to be the right decision for you, and then once you do that, you need to have a business model that's going to provide that. You need to have a strategy, and then you need to understand that it's going to take a lot of commitment, a lot of hard work, and a lot of perseverance to make that business thrive. So many times when I was in the seminar business, when I would work for Tony Robbins, we would have these people that would come to these events and they would do the fire walk and they would get all this great information. And then I would see them a week or two later in another city and they'd say, I quit my job after the fire walk. And I would say, what were you thinking? Because that is not the point. The point isn't to just have this idea and this lightning bolt hit you and then to just make an erratic choice. The point is to empower you to see what's possible in life, to strive for more, and then to take steps to execute on that new vision in a way that's going to be supportive of your lifestyle. I also work with a lot of coaches one-on-one, and I help them grow and design their coaching business. And the saddest thing is most people in this industry don't make it. And there's some very clear-cut reasons why that is. And number one is that if you're coaching someone and they're paying you a couple $100s to sit in front of you, tell you their issues, their challenges, and have you help them through that, but you're looking at them almost as a piece of meat that is going to pay your phone bill, there's no way that you can be successful and maintain that connection and that presence and that relationship. And so unfortunately, I see that not just in coaching, but in most businesses where people follow their passion, they get excited, they move in, and then all of the sudden, they don't have the revenue stream and they don't have the resources in order to make that a viable business. And there's nothing worse, because having a business is hard. Let me tell you, it's not easy. Sometimes I'm so jealous of the 9-to-5ers or somewhere where you could just clock in and clock out, because you don't get that as an entrepreneur. But you do get a lot of freedoms. You do get a lot of empowerment and a lot of other things, but it comes at a price tag. It comes at really being empowered to do whatever it takes to make your business succeed. So again, not to scare anyone, I'm a huge believer in entrepreneurship and in following your dreams, but do it smartly, do it safely. Trust me, I've done it both ways, and it's so much easier to do it when you have a plan. So number one, identify your specific business idea. Number two, see if that's viable. And then number three, create a strong execution strategy in order to achieve the lifestyle that you're looking for. So thank you so much. We are almost out of time today. I really appreciate everybody that wrote in questions. I promise we will try to get to your questions on future episodes. And I just want to say a very special thank you for taking time out of your busy day and watching the Askbonbon show, real conversations about what matters most, where we bring you the people and the tools to create a life that you love. See you next time.